Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Good. Based on your singing and dancing, I'm guessing pretty well. My name is April Colquett. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Wellspring Kids pastor here at Wellspring Church. I love my job. I love what I get to do. I think I have one of the best jobs in the world, and I'm going to get to share a little bit of that with you a little later on in our service today. But sometimes I also have the opportunity of being a part of our communications team and sharing a little bit about what God is teaching me and what I am learning. And so that's what I get to do today, and I'm really excited about what we're going to be learning together. And we are learning this together because I am learning so much in this series. Sometimes when I teach, I'm teaching you something that I have already learned. Today I am teaching you something that I am currently learning. So we're in this together today. As I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you and what God is teaching me, I wanted to do a little bit of research on the title of this series, ReGeneration. As you've heard them talk about, we're in the third week of this series, and one of the things that I like to do to gain understanding and get clarity on things is to read a lot and to look things up. It's just kind of how my mind works. And so I went and I read a little bit about what regeneration actually is, and there's two definitions of regeneration. The first one is the process of restoration or the renewal of cells and tissues. And what I learned is that every species is capable of regeneration. I thought that was pretty amazing. I bet you don't think of yourself as capable of regenerating. Every species, from bacteria to humans. We don't usually think about regenerating, reproducing maybe, but not so much regenerating unless we're thinking about our skin cells or something like that, right, ladies? I told First Hour we need our skin cells to actually regenerate a little bit faster. That would be great. But the other part of regeneration is to create or to construct something anew, especially in an improved manner. And that is what this series is really about. It's taking something and creating for change, working for change and making it better. And as we're thinking about this series, we're taking what is already in the making, our legacy, and working to make it even better. If you've missed any of the last couple of weeks, as David said in the welcome, we want to encourage you to download the app and go back and catch up on the last couple of weeks of regeneration. Sometimes in our series, they kind of build on each other from week to week, and I always like to encourage people to go back and catch up because it's helpful to hear the whole context of a series as we think about what we're learning together. In the very first week, Trey talked to us about our influence, and we learned that we all are influencers. Every one of us is a leader of some kind based on how we live, how we talk, the things that we say, and the things that we do. We are leading someone. And he said that if we want to be leaders worth following, then we should consider our obedience to Christ as an act of leadership. He began this series by kicking off with this principle: a legacy built on Jesus is a gift to everyone who receives it. When our life is surrendered to Christ, when we have made a decision to trust Jesus and follow him, then we are pointing others to a better life simply through obeying and following Jesus. And we're going to come back to this a little bit later in our service today, but last week, if you were here, we got to hear from my amazing husband, Eric Colquett, who's our student pastor, and he talked to us about another step of regeneration. He talked to us about responsibility. And Eric said something about responsibility that really struck me. He said, responsibility is not just a personality trait. It's actually a skill to be learned. Sometimes we dismiss people as being responsible because we think they just don't have it in them. But it's actually a skill that we can teach. And if we are thinking about handing over our legacy and passing on our legacy, handing over leadership to other people, Eric gave us this: when we hand over the keys of responsibility, responsibility carries on. When we're handing off our legacy, we don't want to give it to someone who is going to abuse it or misuse it or just throw away what we've worked so hard for. We want to hand it over to someone who is going to be responsible with it, who's going to continue the process of regeneration and creating and constructing things even better than we have, right? We want people to be responsible, and if we want that to happen, we've got to hand over the keys of responsibility. We've got to equip and train those who are under our influence and under our leadership to be responsible as they come behind us. We need to instruct and demonstrate and give them experiences to be responsible with the hope that they'll take what we've given them and make it even better. And probably every one of us in this room at some point or another have been given a new responsibility. Some of them have been big responsibilities, some of them may be small responsibilities, but at some point you've taken on a new task, a new skill. You've stepped into a new place of leadership, or you became a parent and you became responsible. Have you ever taken on a responsibility that you didn't feel ready for yet? It's terrifying, isn't it? I can think of a lot of times when that's happened to me, but the one that stands out to me the most is when I became a teacher for the very first time, when I took my first job as a teacher. I grew up in Alabama, and so I went to Auburn University, War Eagle, and I did my student teaching and got my degree in early childhood education from Auburn University. And I did quite well. I loved it. I loved what I was doing. And then Eric and I got married, and we moved to Texas, and that's where I interviewed for my first job. And I interviewed actually for a third grade teaching position, and I went to the interview. I felt really confident about it. I felt like I did well, and a couple of days later, I got a call from the principal saying that I got the job. And so I went to all these workshops and trainings preparing for the school year, and 3 days into the first week of school, I realized that it was going to be so much harder than I thought it was going to be. I was feeling like I wasn't ready at all. First of all, if there are any teachers listening or watching online, you know how hard it is to go into a school district that you're not familiar with. I'd never lived in Texas. I didn't know anything about their testing. I didn't know anything about their school districts. And I had all of this pressure to teach these standards in a new state. And I was so scared. It terrified me. I totally panicked. And so I just went to my principal and I begged him to please just let me teach pre-K. Like, that is something that I think I know how to do. So if you could just please give me a different job, that would be great. And I totally bailed on those little third graders. Taking on a new responsibility is a great idea in theory. But when we actually realize that we have been given that responsibility and we are on our own totally without anyone's help, it's a little terrifying. We might want to change our mind. We realize we're not as ready as we thought we were. And if you've been given a new responsibility that you didn't feel ready for, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. As we are getting ready to hand over responsibility, we've also got to hand over courage. Because all of those new responsibilities and tasks and positions will also require courage. Responsibility requires courage, doesn't it? When we realize that we're solely on our own, we're no longer in training, but the task and the position belongs to us, it takes a lot of courage. So as we're handing over the keys to responsibility, as Eric talked to us about last week, we've also got to make sure that we are passing on courage to those who are under our leadership, to those that we're influencing. And you may be wondering, well, how can I make someone be courageous? You can't give someone courage. And you really can't, you're right. But what we can do is source them with encouragement. We can source them with encouragement because encouragement is the action of giving someone support and confidence and hope. And when someone steps in to that moment of responsibility, when they are feeling the pride of a new responsibility and they're so excited and they're so ready and all of a sudden they pivot to panic, this is exactly what they need. They need support, they need confidence, and they need hope that everything is going to be okay, that they can do it even if they don't feel ready for it yet. They need to be able to have self-confidence. They need to feel supported, and they need to feel hope in what they're doing. So we can't make someone have courage, but we can source them by giving them encouragement. Think about the people in your own life who have helped you become the person that you are today. Hopefully, you've had a parent or a mentor or a boss or a friend that has helped you become a better version of yourself. Someone whose advice you actually listened to because they were leading you well. Now, I bet you would say that those people or that person probably gave you a great deal of encouragement, right? And so here's my question for you today. How often are you encouraging the people who you are leading? How often are you encouraging the people who you are leading? Sometimes we think we're being great encouragers because we think encouraging thoughts in our head about people. We think, I'm so proud of them. They've made a lot of progress. I love that guy. I'm so glad he's on my team. But if those thoughts never make it from your brain to their ears, they're not very helpful. Encouragement is one of the most effective ways that we can help someone, but only if we say it out loud. Only if you vocalize how proud you are. Only if you tell them what a great job they're doing. If you don't say those things, that unexpressed encouragement can be received as discouragement. If you don't let them know what a great job they're doing or how much they mean to you, if you never say, I'm proud of you, then they'll probably think you're not. Unexpressed encouragement is received as discouragement. And I'm going to tell you, I told you at the beginning that I'm learning this too. I am teaching this for myself today, and I'm learning right along with you because this is something that I struggle with. Some of us are better encouragers than others, and for some of us, this just doesn't come as naturally. And so we have to be more intentional about it. And as a mom of 3 kids and a team of volunteers that I lead in this church, I am learning that this is something I need to grow in. I'll give you an example from my parenting. We have 3 kids, and our youngest is 9, and we've recently started letting her have more freedom in the neighborhood. So we'll let her walk to a friend's house a couple blocks over, or ride her bike around the neighborhood by herself. We live near a park, and so sometimes we'll let her walk to the park with a friend without an adult. Judge us if you want to. It's very freeing, okay? But before she'll leave the house, I'll give her all kinds of instructions, like don't ride your bike in the middle of the road. If you see a car coming, get to the side. Look both ways. Stay with your friend. Don't get on the monkey bars without an adult there. Go there and straight back. Come home at this time. I give her all kinds of instructions, right? But what I often neglect to do is to tell her that I have confidence that she can do it. I usually don't bother to tell her that I've noticed she's doing a great job of taking our instruction, and I trust her to make good decisions. So why is that? Why do we correct and not encourage? I think when we are sitting in a position of leadership, when we're getting ready to hand over responsibilities to our children or to our employees at work or to someone on our team, even to a friend, we see all of the things that could go wrong, and we so desperately want them to succeed. So our encouragement gets clouded in correction. We don't want them to make the same mistakes that we have. We want them to get it right. And so we correct, and we miss opportunities to encourage. But encouragement is what will allow them to step forward through the moment of panic when they're handed a new responsibility and choose courage. That is what we want. We want them to take the responsibilities, the leadership, the legacy that we're passing on, and be courageous with it. We want them to take new steps. We want them to keep doing new things and pushing boundaries and making things better, but it will require their courage. But this matters because we don't want someone to become so afraid to do anything. We don't want them to become so fearful that they miss out on new opportunities because they didn't have the courage to do it. When we are leading someone to take on a new responsibility or to become a leader, or to carry out our legacy, we don't want them to get right up to the moment of gaining independence and then change their mind, especially if we're ready to push them out of the nest or hand them the keys to the business so that we can retire. We need them to be courageous, but it will require us sourcing them with encouragement. One of my favorite authors and Experts in the field of pediatric and adolescent development is a woman named Sissy Goff. She's a licensed family counselor based out of Tennessee, and she's written a number of books. I love her. I recommend any of her books, but she has one book called Intentional Parenting. And in her book, she writes this: correction does much, but encouragement does more. Correction does much, but encouragement does more. That is a statement that stops me in my tracks, especially as a parent, but even as a leader. She goes on to explain that the reason for this is because correction teaches a person how to act, but encouragement teaches them who they are. Isn't that what we want for the people who we're leading and influencing? We want them to know and be confident in who they are, because if they know who they are, they will know how to act. If they know who they are and how they've been equipped and what they're good at, they're going to be much more likely to choose correct, wise decisions, right? But we don't give encouragement a lot of credit as a skill of leadership. So I think it's important for us to talk about this today. Encouragement is a source of courage. Encouragement is a source of courage. It is what allows someone to step beyond the doubt that they have about what they can do and actually go do that thing, right? And this is a skill, a leadership skill that we see all throughout the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament. There's so many stories probably of people that you've heard about in the Bible who did great things. And they had someone who was in their corner, cheering them on, giving them confidence and hope. Sometimes we see encouragement coming from God. God models encouragement for us. Sometimes we see that person being a father or a mentor or the leader of a nation. I want to take Moses as an example because that's a person that maybe a lot of us know. Moses was the leader of the Israelite army, or the Israelite nation, and he was in charge of leading the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and leading them all the way to the Promised Land. And just before they entered the Promised Land, God told Moses to make his assistant Joshua the new leader, because Moses was at the end of his life, and so it was time to raise up a new leader, and God tells him to put Joshua in charge. And so Moses does something pretty unique. He calls Joshua up into in front of everybody, in front of the whole entire nation, in front of all the people. Usually when you get called up by the boss, it's not good, right? But Moses calls up Joshua and he tells him to be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Sometimes when we give someone encouragement, we do it privately. We'll pass them a note or we'll pull them aside. But I love that Moses does this in public. If you really want to inject courage into someone, say it in front of a room full of people where everyone can hear. Because what you're showing them is, I'm not just saying this to make you feel good. I'm saying this because I want everybody to know this is how I really feel about you. One of the people who we talk about the most here at Wellspring is Paul. Other than Jesus, we talk about Paul all the time. And so in the New Testament, Paul writes a lot of letters to churches, and in every one of his letters, he begins by encouraging them. He'll tell them, you are making a difference in spreading the gospel. Your endurance and your faith is helping me in the work that I'm doing. And so rather than you just taking my word for it today that these things are in the Bible, I want to take you to an example from one of Paul's letters, because we sometimes think we are being better encouragers than we actually are. But if we want to actually give people courage, we've got to be intentional about it. We've got to say it often and out loud. And so I want to take you to an example from one of Paul's letters so that we can look at some of his components of encouragement, and maybe it will help us all to be a little bit more intentional as we are leading other people. If you were here last week and you heard Eric's message, you might remember that he talked about Paul and Timothy as an example of how we can hand over the keys of responsibility. And so I thought it would make sense for us to go back to those same two guys today and look at how Paul gives Timothy encouragement. And as we look at it, we're going to actually be in 2 Timothy chapter 1 if you want to follow along with me. But in this part of Paul's letter, he is ready to hand over the ministry to Timothy because, again, like Moses, he's at the very end of his life. His time has come to an end, and he is leaving Timothy in charge. He's passing on that responsibility and leadership to Timothy, and he has some final instructions for Timothy. But before he gives him the instruction, he leaves Timothy with encouragement. And I mean, that right there might be a great place for us to start as we think about how to encourage someone to give them courage. Give the encouragement before the instruction. Aren't we much more likely to hear what someone has to say and to receive their instruction or constructive criticism, to hear their correction if we have first heard some encouragement? So I want to look at how Paul does this. The very first thing that he says to Timothy is, I thank God for you, the God I serve with a clear conscience, just as my ancestors did. Night and day, I constantly remember you in my prayers. I long to see you again, for I remember your tears as we parted, and I will be filled with joy when we are together again. Paul is making it abundantly clear that he is grateful for Timothy. He says, I appreciate you. I am so thankful for you. I don't know a person on the planet who doesn't like to be appreciated for who they are. And so if we're following Paul's model of how to give encouragement, the first thing that we need to do for someone is to affirm who they are. Affirm who they are. This is encouragement that goes beyond, I like your outfit today, you're going to kill it. This is encouragement that goes beyond, have a great day. This is affirming who they are as a person. I'm grateful for you. I value you. You are important to me. I'm so glad you're on this team. Because when we say things like that, we are letting someone know that we see them and that they have our support. Remember, encouragement is support and confidence and hope. This is the support piece. When we affirm who they are, we are giving them support. We're letting them know we're in your corner. I've got your back. I am so glad that you are exactly who you are. I like having you around. So affirm who they are. Let's keep reading. I remember your genuine faith, for you share the faith that first filled your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I know that same faith continues strong in you. What is Paul doing? He is calling out something that he sees in Timothy. He is acknowledging a strength that he sees in Timothy. If you were here last week, Eric referenced this same scripture because he talked about it in the same way that Paul recognizes something in Timothy and he's letting him know exactly what he sees him doing well. So the second thing that we can do is to affirm what they have done. Affirm what they have done. Call out something that you see that person is doing really well or a strength that you see in them. Just to be clear, this is not sarcasm or a backhanded compliment. Those are the easy ways to sort of give encouragement that we lean on sometimes. It might sound like, oh, it's nice to see you finally cleaned your room for a change. Look who decided to show up for work on time today. Good job. That's really not encouragement. That's an easy out, and really what it is an insult. Because what you're actually doing is highlighting the things that they typically do wrong. Just so happens that today they got it right. This is not sarcasm or backhanded compliments. This is affirming what they have done, a specific strength that you see in them. Paul calls out Timothy's faith, but it could be anything. He's not vague about it. He's not general. He's very specific. This is not a, you've been a great guy, good job. This is, you are doing this thing very well. You have such a great sense of humor. You bring so much laughter to our home. I love that about you. This could be you are so detailed and so organized, and it's keeping our business running efficiently and smoothly. Thank you for doing that. It could be, you always show up to practice with such a great attitude. Makes a difference and sets the tone for our day. Thank you for that. I love that about you. Affirm who they are and affirm what they've done, because when you do that, you are injecting confidence. Remember, we are pointing them towards courage. We want them to choose courage. And so if we call out things that we see them doing well, if we call out their strengths and things that they have already accomplished, we are giving them confidence in their gifts, and we're giving them confidence in what we see that they are capable of doing. Sometimes people have never been told something that they do well. Do you know how many people have never heard, "I'm proud of you"? "I recognize that this is something you're really good at." And when we do that, we can give them confidence so that when they start to have self-doubts, they'll remember, "I know what I'm good at. I know what my gifts are." And it might even be something that can point them to their purpose so that they can continue using those things effectively. Affirm what they have done. And the last thing is affirm what they will do. Look at Paul's example to Timothy. He continues by saying, "This is why I remind you to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid my hands on you. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." He's basically letting Timothy know that he has faith in what he will be able to accomplish because of how God has gifted him. Because of what he's already seen him do well, he knows that Timothy will continue to do that going forward, and he'll do it with strength and love and power. He's letting him know, "I see your potential." And that is what gives someone hope. Affirming what they will do and letting them know that you see their potential gives them hope. Do you know the 4 most powerful words you might be able to say to someone? "I believe in you." I believe in you. Has anyone ever said that to you? Or have you ever said that to someone else? It creates a lot of courage, a lot of confidence when you know someone's got your back and they think you're capable of doing something great. You're much more likely to step through the window of opportunity instead of stepping away in fear. I believe in you. When we say things like that, we are equipping them to choose courage. So these are the 3 things, 3 ways that we can encourage someone. Affirm who they are to show them support. Affirm what they have done to give them confidence in what they can do and their abilities and their strengths and what they're good at. Affirm what they will do. Affirm what they will do to speak to hope. Give them hope in what is to come and what you believe is possible through them. When we encourage someone that way, we are equipping them to choose courage when they have that moment where their pride of responsibility turns to panic. They will be much more likely to choose courage. The hope is that they'll remember the kinds of things that you've said to them and that they will feel supported and confident and hopeful. The people who you are leading need to hear encouragement from you often and out loud. Often and out loud. They need to know that you believe the best about them, the best about life, and even that you believe the best about God. Because when things don't work out exactly the way that they hoped, the only hope we can give them is through faith. We can point them to God's promises and that better is possible through Jesus. I told you that we would come back to this point. A legacy built on Jesus is a gift to everyone who receives it. Anyone can be courageous. Anyone can give courage. Anyone can help someone feel supported and confident and hopeful. Anyone can speak encouraging words. But when our life and our legacy is built on Jesus, we are the most equipped to be the most encouraging. Christians should be the most encouraging people in the workplace, in your home, in your school, in our community. Christians should be the ones who can easily give courage, because when we have faith in God and we know what He is capable of, when we know what He's already done for us, it allows us to have faith in the potential of someone else. We should be able to look at every person and recognize that they are defined by God and designed for good. And knowing that helps us look for specific ways that we can source them with courage by calling out the potential that we see, by affirming who they are, by acknowledging what we've already seen them do. That kind of encouragement does so much more than we give it credit for. When I think about people in my life who have encouraged me, I realize that a simple note, an encouraging word, giving someone confidence is leadership. It is leadership because those small acts are big things that help someone be able to walk up to that opportunity and walk through it. To choose courage in that moment, that is what we want them and need them to do in order to carry out the legacy. In order to step into leadership, we want them to be courageous. Encouragement does so much more than we give it credit for. You can help form the way that someone thinks and feels about themselves simply through your words, by showing support and confidence and hope in that person. I know some of you in here don't really ever think of yourselves as a leader. You've never really looked at yourself in the mirror and been like, I am an influencer, I am a leader. But if you have ever encouraged someone, if you have ever helped support someone and know how much they mean to you, if you have ever let someone know you're proud of them, you are leading. Do not underestimate encouragement as a source of leadership. It is, because encouragement is a source of courage. Encouragement encourages other people to take courageous steps. We can't make them be courageous, but we can source them with support and confidence and hope. Can you imagine the difference it would make for someone who is taking on some new responsibilities, who's been handed something? They have a lot on their plate. They're walking into a new role. Can you imagine the difference it would make in helping them feel courageous and confident if they had someone like you in their corner, giving them that support, not just correcting them, but encouraging them, letting them know they can do it, even if they don't feel ready yet. Don't underestimate encouragement as an act of leadership. Encouragement is a source of courage. So I want to challenge you this week to not just think encouraging thoughts about people, but to say encouraging words to people. Be intentional about it. Make sure that you are letting them know how much you value them, that you are affirming them, that you are speaking to their potential and giving them confidence in what you see them being capable of doing. You never know the difference it will make in helping them to choose courage when the time comes. It doesn't matter if they are 4 or 44. They need to know, I believe in you. Before we close today, I wanted to leave you with one more picture of encouragement as a source of courage. We have some pretty amazing leaders and parents in this church. I told you I love my job. I love what I get to do. And the reason for that is because I get to see some pretty amazing things happening. We have some parents and leaders who have helped lead kids in their faith. They have sourced them with confidence in who God is and what He can do. They have supported them by bringing them to Wellspring Church and Wellspring Kids to hear more about God's truth and God's promises. And they are equipping these kids to be leaders. And so last week, 13 kids took a courageous step to boldly make their faith public through being baptized right here. We did it right here in this room. Yes, you can clap for that. And now, because they've taken that courageous step and because they have those adults in their life who are encouraging them and sourcing them with courage, they're equipped to pick up the mantle of leadership, to keep showing and sharing to other people the amazing love of Jesus. That is what encouragement can do. So I want to share that baptism celebration with you today because it is pretty amazing. And as you watch this, I want you to think about who you are encouraging and how you are encouraging them out loud. Be intentional about it. Source them with courage by giving them support and confidence and hope in what you see they can do. Watch this. In the crowd that day, there were some families. There were some parents who brought their children with them to hear Jesus. And the children ran up to Jesus and they want to hug him and be around him and touch him and talk to him. And his disciples assume that Jesus is probably bothered. And so they try to get the children to go away. And Jesus says, no, no, no. He tells them this. He says, Jesus said, let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And parents, you have not hindered your children from coming to God. You have helped them come to God.
My name is Weston Lentz. I'm 8 years old, and I'm in 2nd grade.
Hi, my name is Haley Norris. I am 9 years old and in the 4th grade.
My name is Miles, and I'm 7, and I'm in 2nd grade.
My name is Carly. I'm 9 years old.
My name is Jackson. I'm in the 4th grade.
My name is Viola. My name is Vanessa.
My name is Olivia Hewitt.
Hi, my name is Chloe.
My name is Rayan.
Hi, my name is Hadley.
Hi, my name is Sean McElroy.
I want to get baptized because I made the decision to follow Jesus and share out with others.
I want to get baptized because I want other people to know I believe in Jesus.
Because I believe in Jesus and I want to show others that I really love him.
Christians like believing in Jesus and letting people know that you believe in him.
I want to be a disciple to show others about Jesus.
I love Jesus so much and I want to show everybody that I want to follow him and be like Jesus as much as possible.